Imagine this, it's 2nd December 1804, inside the soaring Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. The air is thick with incense and the weight of history. A short, intense man in a crimson velvet cloak steps forward, takes the imperial crown from the hands of the Pope himself, and places it on his own head. Not a king by birth. Not a noble by blood. Just Napoleon Bonaparte, artillery lieutenant, Corsican outsider, revolutionary soldier, crowning himself Emperor of the French. In that single defiant act, a man who once drilled cannon on muddy battlefields declared that merit, not monarchy, would rule Europe. But how did a boy from a rocky Mediterranean island, bullied for his accent and his poverty, rise from nothing to conquer half a continent? Today, we are diving deep into the unbelievable true story of Napoleon Bonaparte's conquest from nothing. Drawn straight from Wikipedia's meticulously sourced timeline, Andrew Roberts' landmark biography that unlocked 33,000 of Napoleon's own letters, contemporary news archives from the Revolutionary era, and candid public interviews with historians who have spent decades debating whether he was genius or tyrant. Buckle up, this is an epic of ambition, genius, betrayal, and one of history's greatest cautionary tales. Let's go back to the beginning. On 15th August 1769, in the coastal town of Ajaccio on the island of Corsica, Napoleon Bonaparte was born, the second surviving son of Carlo Maria Buonaparte, a struggling lawyer from minor Italian nobility, and the fiercely determined Maria Letizia Ramolino. Corsica had just been sold by Genoa to France the year before, and the island was still simmering with rebellion. His father had fought alongside the legendary Corsican patriot Pasquale Paoli, but after defeat, Carlo made peace with the French governor and used that connection to secure scholarships for his sons. At just 9 years old, in January 1779, young Napoleon, already speaking Corsican and Italian as his mother tongues, was shipped off to mainland France. First to a religious school in Autun to master French, then to the military academy at Braine-le-Château. Life there was brutal. His peers mocked his thick accent, his short stature. He stood about 5'7", average for the time but forever labelled Little Bonnie, and his fiery Corsican pride. He became reserved, bookish, pouring himself into mathematics, geography, and history while nursing a deep nostalgia for Corsica and Paoli. A school examiner once noted his excellence in math and predicted he might make a fine sailor. By September 1784, he transferred to the elite École Militaire in Paris. His father died of stomach cancer in February 1785, leaving the family in dire straits, but Napoleon powered through the 2-year course in just 1 year, graduating 42nd in a class of 58 and earning a commission as a second lieutenant in the La Fère artillery regiment. Years later, he would credit his mother with everything. The future destiny of the child, he said, is always the work of the mother. Those lonely academy years forged the disciplined, ambitious mind that would soon reshape Europe. The French Revolution erupted in 1789 like a powder keg, and Napoleon, now 20, was perfectly positioned to explode onto the scene. On leave in Corsica, he threw himself into revolutionary politics, supporting the Jacobins while clashing with Paoli, whom he now saw as too royalist. Back in France by 1793, he published a Jacobin pamphlet called Les Soupers de Beaucaire, defending the National Convention. That same year, the royalist-held port of Toulon fell to British and Spanish forces. Napoleon, just 24 and now a captain, was sent as artillery commander. He spotted a key hill overlooking the harbour, seized it with brilliant positioning, and forced the enemy fleet to flee. Toulon was recaptured on 17 December 1793. Overnight, he became a hero. Augustin Robespierre, brother of the infamous Maximilian, praised him, and Napoleon was promoted to brigadier general. But when Robespierre fell in the Thermidor reaction, Napoleon's Jacobin ties got him briefly arrested. He bounced back. In October 1795, Royalist rebels marched on Paris. The Directory turned to the young general. On 13 Vendémiaire, Napoleon ordered his troops to fire grapeshot into the crowd. Hundreds died, the rebellion was crushed, and he was hailed as the savior of the Republic. All Barras, one of the directors, rewarded him with command of the Army of Italy in 1796. Just days after a whirlwind civil marriage to the glamorous widow Josephine de Beauharnais, whose first husband had been guillotined, Napoleon left for Italy, already writing her passionate letters that revealed both his tenderness and his towering ego. The Italian campaign of 1796 to 1797 was where Napoleon truly became Napoleon. Outnumbered and facing Austrian and Sardinian forces, he launched a lightning offensive. In the Montenotte campaign, he knocked Sardinia out in weeks. He won at Lodi, Castiglione, Bassano, Arcole, and Rivoli 18 pitched battles in all, using speed, artillery, and the sheer morale of revolutionary troops who fought for ideals, not kings. He looted vast treasures. £45 million sterling, hundreds of artworks, including the famous horses of Saint Mark from Venice, and sent them back to Paris, funding the Republic while building his legend. By 1797, he forced Austria to the negotiating table at Leoben and Campo Formio, carving up northern Italy and ending the thousand-year Venetian Republic. Back in Paris as a hero, he was given command of the Army of England to invade Britain. But instead, he pivoted to Egypt in 1798, hoping to strike at British trade routes and link up with Indian rebels. Accompanied by 167 scientists, he captured Malta, won the Battle of the Pyramids. Soldiers, from the top of these pyramids, 40 centuries look down upon you. But Admiral Nelson destroyed his fleet at the Nile, stranding the army. In Syria, he took Jaffa but ordered the execution of thousands of prisoners and civilians when plague and resistance mounted, a massacre that later haunted his reputation. He abandoned Egypt in 1799, leaving Kleber in charge, and returned to a fractured directory. With France bankrupt, invaded on multiple fronts, and the directory collapsing, Napoleon struck. On November 9 to 10, 1799, 18 Brumaire, he and his allies, including Talleyrand and his brother Lucien, staged a coup. The directory was dissolved. Napoleon became first consul under a new constitution he largely wrote himself. A plebiscite approved it overwhelmingly, though votes were padded. As first consul, he centralized power ruthlessly, prefects, a council of state, censored press. But delivered results. He stabilized finances, crushed royalist revolts with a mix of amnesty and force, and in 1800 crossed the Alps in a daring winter campaign to win at Marengo, forcing Austria to peace. The Concordat of 1801 reconciled France with the Catholic Church. Most famously, in 1804 he unveiled the Napoleonic Code, a civil code that enshrined equality before the law, religious toleration, secure property rights, and the end of feudal privileges. It spread across Europe, influencing legal systems from Louisiana to Latin America to this day. But there were shadows. Women's rights were curtailed, divorce restricted, and slavery, abolished in 1794, was reintroduced in the colonies in 1802, sparking bloody resistance in Haiti. On 18 May 1804, the Senate proclaimed him Emperor Napoleon I. The coronation on 2 December was pure theatre. He seized the crown from Pope Pius VII and placed it on his own head, swearing to uphold liberty while reintroducing hereditary titles and nobility. France had traded a king for an emperor, but this one had earned it on the battlefield. Napoleon's peak was breathtaking. By 1812, he ruled or controlled territory from Spain to Poland directly or through puppet kingdoms, governing over 40% of Europe's population. His grand army, fueled by conscription and merit promotion, was the most formidable force the continent had seen. In the War of the Third Coalition in 1805, he crushed Austria and Russia at Austerlitz. His masterpiece, where he deliberately weakened his right flank to lure the enemy into a trap, then smashed their center. The Holy Roman Empire dissolved, the Confederation of the Rhine was born. Prussia fell at Jena and Austerlitz in 1806. Russia sued for peace at Tilsit in 1807. He imposed the continental system, closing European ports to British trade to strangle their economy. Domestically, he founded the Legion of Honor, reformed education with lycées and grands écoles, introduced the metric system and built roads, bridges, and the modern French bureaucracy. He divorced Josephine in 1810 for failing to produce an heir and married Mary Louise of Austria. Their son, Napoleon II, the King of Rome, was born in 1811. At his zenith, Napoleon seemed invincible. But cracks were everywhere, and controversies piled up. The Peninsular War in Spain from 1808 became a bleeding ulcer, installing his brother Joseph as king sparked guerrilla warfare, immortalized in Goya's horrific paintings of French atrocities. Over 150,000 French troops died there. The 1809 campaign against Austria ended in victory at Wagram but at huge cost. His secret police under Fouch and strict censorship silenced critics. The 1804 execution of the Duke of Enghien, a Bourbon prince kidnapped from neutral Baden and shot after a sham trial, shocked Europe and convinced many he was a tyrant. In Egypt, the Jaffa massacre saw thousands bayoneted or drowned. Reimposing slavery alienated republicans and fueled revolts. He looted art and imposed crushing taxes on conquered lands. By 1812, hubris struck. Tsar Alexander I defied the continental system. Napoleon invaded Russia with over 450,000 men. He won at Borodino, the bloodiest single day of the Napoleonic Wars, but Moscow burned, and the Russian winter and scorched earth tactics destroyed the Grand Army. Barely 40,000 survivors limped home. The Sixth Coalition pounced. At Leipzig in 1813, the Battle of the Nations. Napoleon was defeated in the largest battle Europe had ever seen. Paris fell in 1814. He abdicated and was exiled to the tiny island of Elba. Yet the story wasn't over. In February 1815, Napoleon escaped Elba with 1,000 men, landed in France, and marched on Paris to the cheers of soldiers who defected en masse. The 100 Days began. He issued a more liberal constitution, won another plebiscite, but the Seventh Coalition, Britain, Prussia, Austria, Russia, mobilized. On 18 June 1815, at Waterloo, Wellington's redcoats and Blucher's Prussians crushed him. I have fought 60 battles, Napoleon later reflected, and I have learned that nothing is more difficult than to win a battle when the enemy is determined. He abdicated again, surrendered to the British, and was exiled to the remote South Atlantic island of St. Helena under harsh guard by Governor Hudson Lowe. There, in a damp house called Longwood, he dictated his memoirs, painted himself as a champion of the revolution, and suffered from stomach cancer, confirmed by modern studies, though poisoning rumors persisted. He died on 5 May 1821, at age 51, reportedly murmuring, "France, the army." Josephine. His body was returned to Paris in 1840 amid national mourning. Napoleon's legacy is as towering and contradictory as the man himself. The Napoleonic Code remains the foundation of civil law in dozens of countries, embedding revolutionary ideals of equality and secular governance while protecting property. He spread nationalism, unintentionally birthing modern Germany and Italy through conquest and reorganization. His military tactics, courts system, living off the land, rapid maneuver are still studied in war colleges worldwide. The Congress of Vienna in 1815 redrew Europe's map for a century of relative peace, but at the cost of restoring monarchies and ignoring the liberal fires he had lit. Historians like Andrew Roberts, in interviews and his exhaustive biography, praise his meritocratic rise, administrative genius, and embodiment of French ambition, quoting Napoleon's own letters that reveal a man who lived like a bear with books in his youth and later commanded destiny itself. Yet critics point to the human cost, over 1 million French dead, perhaps 6 million Europeans total from war, famine, and disease. He reintroduced slavery, curtailed press freedom, executed political opponents, and turned the Republic into an empire with hereditary titles. As one historian noted in a public discussion, Napoleon proves that even the most brilliant leader can become the tyrant he once overthrew. So what are the lessons for us today? Napoleon shows the incredible power of merit over birthright, a poor Corsican artilleryman becoming emperor through sheer talent and will. He teaches decisive action, innovation, and the ability to inspire loyalty. But he also warns of the dangers of unchecked ambition, overextension, and the seductive trap of glory. In an era of populism and strongmen, his story reminds us that revolutions can birth dictators, that wars begin for ideals can end in ruin, and that true greatness lies not just in conquest but in building something that endures beyond your lifetime. The soldier from nothing conquered Europe, but in the end, Europe. And history conquered him. If you found this epic journey through Napoleon's life as riveting as I did, hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dive history, and drop in the comments, was Napoleon a hero who spread the revolution or a tyrant who betrayed it? Let's debate. Thanks for watching. Until next time, keep questioning the past to understand the future.